Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. Today on episode 35, obviously we have a guest today. We have Bryce Wheeler on. We'll get into Bryce in a little bit, but I just want to reach out and say thank you for coming out to the podcast today. It's always awesome. I know I say this every episode, but I like giving it back to the people that listen. It's always awesome getting messages or getting DMs wherever from people that listen to the podcast saying, hey, this episode was awesome. Have them on again, or hey, I learned a lot from this episode. Thank you for providing this information. It's awesome to hear that. It really is awesome to hear that. That means that myself and the people that are on the podcast are doing what the podcast is meant for, and it's fantastic. But anyways, we'll get into Bryce. Bryce, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate the time out of your day that you're kind of dedicating to record this with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you reaching out and having me on here. It's I'm always happy to hop on some creative podcasts and shoot the breeze with other people in the industry and be able to talk about what we do and why we love what we do. So having a great day, having a great time. I appreciate you again having me on.
No problem, man. That's awesome that you're having a good time. So before I ask this question, go into yourself, introduce yourself for the people that don't know who Bryce Wheeler is, and then I'll ask that question that I just thought of.
Yeah. I am the creative content coordinator for GCU Athletics. For those of you who don't know, it's Grand Canyon University. It's in Phoenix. It's Division I as of 2013. This coming August will be my third year full time there. That's sort of how I got my start in there. I started as a student manager for the men's basketball team my freshman year of college in 2018. Was brought on as I initially was helping along with my student manager duties, was helping the men's basketball staff with recruiting materials because design at one point was just something I had as a hobby. It's something I didn't know I necessarily wanted to do as a career. I figured that out over time, but started working in the athletics department as a student worker my sophomore year in late 2019, early 2020, and then was brought on full-time as creative content coordinator in August of 2021, right after my junior year. So before I was graduated. So I was fortunate enough to land that full-time gig with the university that gave me such a good opportunity so early in my career. I am loving it. It's such a good gig, such a good place to work. So many different things that you love about the university and about the athletics department as a whole. It's a blessing, and I really couldn't ask for anything more at this point in my career.
Awesome.
Sorry, that's a bit of a longer answer in terms of an introduction, but yes, sir.
No, that's good. I like hearing how people introduce themselves. It's good when maybe when we're not recording, maybe the intro would be a little bit different, but I like hearing how people describe themselves and how people describe what they do and how it's affected them in a certain way or wherever they go. I mean, sometimes it's like, hi, I'm Jared Klein, I'm a graphic designer, and that's
right.
Or sometimes people go around the long way, sometimes and go, hi, I was born in 1998 at 8 a.m. to a mom that is amazing. Sometimes it happens that way. So
sure.
Going the long way isn't a bad thing. But yeah, so the question I was going to ask, but you answered it. I did not know where Grand Canyon University was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if it was in Phoenix or if it was in Nevada somewhere. I didn't know. So you
see, that's funny because on most of our equipment and our gear here, it's just it's GCU. That's the main mark of the university.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm traveling with a team, or I'm walking around an airport somewhere, or I'm back at home. And I'm, the first question I get, and I'm always ready for it because it's always the same question. It's what is GCU? And I've switched my answer from it stands for Grand Canyon University. I go, It's Grand Canyon University. It's in Phoenix, because the immediate next question I get asked
Oh, where is
is,
it?
and I'm sure yeah, exactly, and I'm sure everybody else that wears GCU gear, anywhere, gets asked, oh, is that in the? I've been asked, is it in the Grand Canyon? And that's not an uncommon question. Or is it near Flagstaff, which is, obviously where the Grand Canyon is. So,
Hmm.
yeah, as we begin to grow and expand as a university, we hope that that question, answers itself,
Right.
really. Or we have started putting just Grand Canyon on more gear and uniforms and things like that, starting to make that word mark more part of our brand. So,
Right.
but
Yeah, I don't know. I did mention before we were recording that I was going to Vegas late here in the week, Thursday to Sunday actually, and
mhm.
I've never went down to like the Southwest this early in the year. What's like I checked what the weather is going to be like. It's going to be like high 50s, low 60s when we're there. Is that
Mhm.
normally how it is, or is it usually pretty hot right now?
I feel like, and some people would disagree, but I feel like it's been colder at this point in the year than it has been in any of the other 4 years or actually, it would be previous springs that I've been here. But yeah, I mean, it's been super windy lately this week. Just hanging out in the high 40s, low 50s. Um, yeah, it's been chilly. It's been chilly for sure. I mean, my coworkers and my boss and I, we call it pullover weather or pullover season. And that pullover season, typically lasts from November to late February around here, but it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. But I'm looking to get out to some spring training games, waiting for it to warm up and, waiting for the wind to die down. But yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah, see, when you say chilly, it makes me laugh because like I mean, has it snowed ever when you were down there? Ever?
Not in Phoenix. I drove through a little bit when I was driving up to Utah for Thanksgiving 2 years ago, so there was some snow in Flagstaff. But yeah, I've totally become transformed. I used to be, because I'm from Alaska. I'm from Wasilla, Alaska. It's
Oh shit.
South Central. South Central. It's about 45 minutes. And people don't know where Wasilla is, so I say it's 45 minutes away from Anchorage.
Okay.
That typically gives people a general regional idea of where I am at and where I grew up at. But yeah, I used to be getting up and driving in the snow and 0 to 15 degrees every day, and now
Mhm.
it's a bit breezy and in the low 50s, and I've got at least one jacket on. So
Mhm.
4 years in Phoenix will do that to you for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy how the how like we'll go down there next weekend and it'll be high 50s and people will be in jeans and like a pullover or something, and we're gonna be walking out with shorts and like a short sleeve, and oh, there's the tourists, from Wisconsin for sure. There's the
Right.
Northerners coming down here, but it's like it's so funny because like up here in I just bumped my mic in like October or November when it gets to be like 45 degrees, it's cold, but now in like March and like April when it's like 45 degrees, like we're out in t-shirts
Right.
and shorts. Like it's crazy
Yep.
how your body kind of adapts to all that stuff. And I mean, 4 years isn't that long time. I mean, well, 3 springs, I guess. So you've really only experienced 3 summers within right? That's what you said. You said 3 springs.
Well, let's see. I got down here. The fall of 2018 was my freshman year of college, and each of the 3 previous summers, I've been able to go home because I've just been a student. When I was a student manager, I was able to go home for the summers. Um, and last summer, I was my first real taste of an Arizona summer.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that'll take your notice for sure.
Uh-huh.
So still trying to get used to that. Still preparing for that this summer, but hopefully I'll be able to escape back home for at least a couple weeks or a week or so.
Alaska. That's interesting. I didn't ask that, did I? I didn't ask where you were from, did I?
That's on the note sheet here. I kind of skipped over that when I was doing the intro, but yeah, summer's there. Anyone that's been up there in the summer knows, daylight 20 21 hours a day. The sun only goes down from about midnight to 3 a.m. Maybe 1 to 3 a.m. on like the longest day of the year in June.
Mhm.
But no place I'd rather be in this. I always say no place I'd rather be in the summer, and no place I'd rather be away from in the winter. So
Yeah.
because it's polar opposite. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my parents went there on vacation and they say and they went in like like fall, like October into November. So they, yeah, that's what I would expect. But they were like, it was beautiful. They said it was gorgeous. They said it was like they'd go back in a heartbeat. They were like,
Sure.
it was the best, vacation that they took. They stayed in like a little cabin. I
Uh-huh.
forgot where around they stayed. I'm not even gonna guess because it won't even be close. But like they stayed in a little cabin. They
Hmm.
went on like not a cruise, but like like a boat tour or something around the coast, and they saw like bunch of wildlife like whales and shit and
Sure.
moose
Glaciers
and
and
yeah,
mountains.
glaciers
Right.
and stuff
Yep.
that you don't see anywhere else in the
Yeah.
United States. So it's like, yeah, they said they went there and they only said good things about it. They said it was fantastic. It was gorgeous up there.
Right. Yeah. So my take on Alaska, like I said, for anyone listening, if you've got a couple weeks in the summer or got a couple days, go up, experience it. Take advantage of the long days and the hikes that there are to do, and the lakes there are to see, and everything there is to see. There's just as much beauty in the summer as there is in the winter. It's just covered in snow in the winter and a lot more fun to watch inside. So I've been trying to get my girlfriend to go up for almost 2 years now in the winter, and she won't even entertain the thought. So, but yeah,
For sure.
summertime for sure.
For sure. Yeah, so are you with your profession now with what you do at GCU, or I'll say Grand Canyon just so people can know where.
Okay,
I'll just say Grand Canyon.
I appreciate that.
So with your profession, this time in the season, kind of that transition from, is football? Do you guys have football?
We don't. We're one of those mid majors that's primarily basketball, baseball.
Okay.
Emphasis on volleyball and those sort of the Gonzagas and the trying to think like the Murray States and
Mm-hmm.
mid majors like that don't have football but are more focused on all the WCC schools, those kinds of schools.
For sure. So yeah, I mean now you're going into that transition of, I mean, basketball's ending in March. Obviously, that's
Yep.
if you make the tournament. Are you guys eligible? That you're WCC, so yeah, you can make the tournament. But is it kind of hard to go through? Right, you said you're WCC.
No, like our athletics model as a university is sort of like most of those WCC
Oh, okay,
schools. We're
okay.
we're in the WAC, which is WAC is us, New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, SF, Stephen F. Austin, a couple of Texas schools, and a couple of schools in Utah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, some of those are football. They reformed the WAC football conference, which was defunct in the 2010s, after the who was in there. A lot of the Mountain West schools were in the WAC, like for football and stuff. So they reformed the WAC football conference, but there are a good mix of schools in the
Mm-hmm.
WAC that don't have football, and then some that do too.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm just trying to get a scope of, because I've recently, like, ever since I came on like Twitter, like sports design Twitter, I never really thought of like Grand Canyon University as like a, like I've seen commercials for it, like when I'm watching sports or whatever.
That's what
Um
everyone says.
and like I've seen commercials, and the commercials, I mean, they look great, but like am I interested? Probably not.
No.
But then I'm seeing, like, I mean, you guys have a decent baseball team, your basketball team, and also the atmosphere at your basketball games is something that I've seen, over and over, like just photos and video of it, and it looks amazing. So like I've gradually been, um, what's the exposed to Grand Canyon University, and I have a buddy of mine named Mason Mulcahy. I think I pronounced his last name
Right.
correct. Do you know who he is? He works with GCU. He's a
He,
designer.
he I think he did a little bit of recruiting materials and content for the women's basketball team,
Yep.
but that's about the extent of as far as I know him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like I had him on the podcast and we talked a little bit about GCU and everything, or Grand Canyon University and everything. So yeah, I've just kind of gradually been exposed. And now, being able to, see, especially after following you on Twitter and being able to see what kind of content you're pushing out and everything. And it's just becoming more apparent that it's, an awesome atmosphere and it's an awesome school to kind of be a part of. So yeah, I guess your transition right now from basketball into baseball and now kind of just doing both basketball and baseball at the same time. How is that kind of workload going on right now?
the dreaded crossover season is
Mm-hmm.
definitely in full swing. There's that couple week period throughout the year where, basketball's finishing up. All these winter sports are finishing up, and I'm trying to roll stuff out for, postseason awards
Mm-hmm.
and, potential championship stuff and things like that. Trying to work closely with all those programs, and then, we've got the baseballs and the softball. We have a very good baseball program and a very good softball program. Men's volleyball is one of those that there's 50 something schools in Division One. It's not a very represented NCAA like Division One sport, but we are ranked in the top 5 nationally in men's volleyball. So they need their stuff, and then beach volleyball is starting their national, or they're ranked as well. And so we have a lot of success, and obviously with more success comes more work. And I'm
Right.
trying to build out our season branding and our season packages for all of those sports. And it's the workload's been, you know at times it's overwhelming, but at the same time it's part of the grind, and I wouldn't want to do it if I didn't love what I do. And
For sure.
just to create stuff and to help build that brand, and to sort of develop an identity as a new Division One. And I'm branching off a little bit here, but like I said, we've only been D1. This will be our 10th year coming up this next season. But to be able to be one of the first creatives in this position in terms of what we're rolling out on social, and then on our accounts, and just building that brand on those platforms, just kind of doing my part there is part of what makes this position and this situation so special to me. And to have so many good people around me that have that same mentality and those same aspirations and goals for the athletics department for Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm. So your title is creative content coordinator. Does that mean you kind of work as like a creative director, or do you have creative directors?
Um, Not necessarily creative directors right now. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm 22 years old. I took this role when I was 20, and so we have a lot of young people in our department, that are, like I said, that are like-minded, that are motivated, and that
Mm-hmm.
want to that share common goals for the school and for our athletics programs. Um, but that title, we specifically
Titles are a
steered. Oh,
great thing within sports.
right.
It's
And
you never
they
really know.
they really don't mean much, and it just depends on, like, my boss Josh. He was like, yeah, I gave you creative content coordinator because I know you're not just a designer, because we'll pick up a camera, pick up a go make a
Right.
video or practice photos one day. I'm on the road with men's basketball doing that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
um and so, yeah, the creative content coordinator role is more so, you know primarily emphasis on design, probably 80, 85, 90% design. And the rest is picking up photos, videos, making that kind of stuff, just and social management as well, like we talked about before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm also managing social for our men's basketball and baseball as well. So my boss Josh and I, we kind of tag team those two, because with those two, it's a lot of work and to keep the content flowing at all times, to make sure that that people are informed and fans are getting the content that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But in terms of oversight, not necessarily a lot of oversight, just more so like direction right now, and like say, and our creative direction. At some point down the road, we'll see where that takes me, but I could see that you know in the future being part of my role is some creative oversight. But primarily right now, it's just all those roles on top of having say and a good amount of control over our creative direction for social
Mm-hmm.
and collateral and things like that.
For sure. Yeah, I was gonna kind of segue into like asking if you've developed like the look and everything, like you primarily, or I'm interested in hearing about that, because I mean you said you listened to Mallory's episode. We talked about her developing the look for BGSU and being able to go year to year. But I guess like for this year, I see like with your basketball stuff, that's the thing. Like with sports, it's like basketball has one kind of atmosphere around it. Baseball has one atmosphere around it. And I see this year you kind of paid homage to like vintage baseball look.
Hmm.
How, like, when creating that, like going from basketball to baseball this year specifically, keeping the brand consistent, kind of what are you considering as the season kind of starts ramping up for baseball?
Sort of. I mean, with our creative department and our athletics programs as a whole, it's keeping one consistent general brand and
Yeah.
brand style and identity while also giving each program a little bit of like its own unique identity. Obviously with softball and baseball, you can do that sort of vintage trading card style look that you wouldn't make as much sense on a basketball or a
Right.
volleyball, or what I mean. So, and
Right.
we have a set of like fonts that, like, there's a script font that baseball and softball have that no other programs have, because it just makes more sense, historically, and sort of for like a general look wise for those two programs.
Hmm.
um, and that's funny that you bring up um, Mallory's podcast, because I had, when I was developing the look for baseball, I wanted to do something that I had never personally seen before, like on, I'm sure it's been replicated before, but sort of a look and direction that I hadn't seen for like a baseball program before, and I hadn't seen that sort of retro trading card style. And then on opening day, obviously, I had posted mine, and I am scrolling through, and I see Mallory's from BGSU and see that she did the same thing, and I dropped something in there. I was like, handshake, like good
Right.
minds, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, it's just that's sort of how the process goes, in terms of my main mindset is trying to do stuff that people haven't seen before,
Hmm.
but sort of a unique individual team look that all fits into the collective brand of athletics.
Right. Yeah, I think that's always a very curious thing to think about within collegiate athletics specifically, because, the creative department that works with athletics has to consider, all of those different sports and how they want to brand those different sports and how they want to, have a social look for those different sports, but also considering the university and the brand itself. Like, yeah, you may be branding, GCU baseball or Lopes baseball, but, they're an out-facing kind of identity that represents the university as a whole. So how are you going to kind of tie that in, make sure people know that this is the university and not just, some random baseball team, stuff like that. I'm always very curious on how that's attacked and how it's kind of played out as season goes on, or, transitioning. I like to see the transition between one, we'll use baseball for this instance, one baseball season to the next baseball season. It's like super, super cool to see how brands within brands, like baseball within the GCU brand, kind of evolves as seasons go on and everything like that.
Hmm.
It's very curious to me because I think collegiate athletics has more of a personality to it. I think it's more relatable. I think
Right.
it's, there's more, yeah, there's more like a personable kind of relationship when it comes to collegiate athletics. So you can go in different directions when it comes to that. You can be a little bit more creative. You can reach outside the box a little bit more and use players' personality a little bit more to kind of drive the creative look and everything like that. It's super interesting sometimes. It really is. And
Right. And
yeah, you go.
go ahead.
No, 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 go.
um I'm like, I one of the things I you know s- s- struggle with in this this field and in this profession is trying to maintain a consistent look, for an entire season or across multiple seasons, whatever it may be,
Hmm.
but also being creative every time I open the computer, and I fire up the the creative suites, so or the creative suits, I'm sorry. So doing that while also maintaining a consistent brand is tough, because I don't want to like open my computer and just mindlessly plug something into a template, or plug something into something that I've done before. So that's one of the more challenging things in this profession, I would say, is keeping a consistent brand while also doing something new and doing something creative every time that you're opening Photoshop or Illustrator, and just creating.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's great to kind of see, what comes of it. I mean, like I said before, it's just great to kind of see everything that comes of it. And just looking around the collegiate space, there's not many schools that are even close to having the same look. You know, so many schools go so many different directions with their design and with how they display the school and display the sport. Granted, a lot schools have different personalities, different locations, different, granted, that's just how things work, so they have different kind of feelings to go off of when it comes to branding the schools. But it just, collegiate athletics just makes it so much more interesting when it comes to developing creative and
Sure.
showcasing different teams underneath that overarching university. And it's just, it's one, granted, I'm kind of young into my career, and I don't know, based off of how things have kind of gone with myself and how things are, how I'm wanting things to go, I don't think I'll ever get the chance to work within collegiate athletics on a full-time scale and be able to dive into that. But looking from the outside in, it's a very interesting, it seems like a very interesting type of world to be in, especially as a creative. It just looks very,
Right.
it looks very entertaining. Yes, you do have those long hours. If you work in sports, you're going to get long hours. That's kind of the thing that you sign up for. But,
Hmm.
the whole creative side and the development of everything, it looks very, very interesting.
Yeah. I One of the things I found out a lot about what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do in this profession, from this internship. I was lucky enough to intern with the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury in the in it was a COVID year, so it was late 2020
Mm-hmm.
into early 2021, and that internship was really serviceable to me. I learned a lot from a lot of good people there. GCU grad works there full time now, and they have, I think, one of the best visual brands in the NBA in terms of what they're putting on social and
Mm-hmm.
their marketing collateral and things like that. But one thing I did learn, and I'm trying not to make this sound like a slight to them because they gave me a lot and it was a really good opportunity, but I did find that, like, you know in the NBA you're working for one team and one brand, and it's not necessarily as diverse in what you're doing every day as it is in college athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in terms of, excuse me, and that's in terms of you know creative direction. Like, you have 20 something programs in college athletics that you can do something different with, and that you can add little twists to and give each team and each program and all these kids their own sort of identity and their own brand. And I don't know if you can do that the same way for one single program, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
you know what I mean? And yeah, so I love the doing things different, even in like day to day. Another thing I learned there, I'm, like I said, no slight to them, because they gave me a lot and allowed me so many good opportunities. But like, I'd go from the internship I was doing. I was a student worker for GCU and a Suns intern at the same time. And so one day, I think I would switch off days if I remember correctly. But one day I would, go into the Suns and I'd sit and, go 9 to 5 and then go home. But then I'd, go to GCU and we'd have practice one day. I'd go shoot photos there. I'd have a game one day. It's something different every day in college
Mm-hmm.
athletics, I think. And I would lose my mind if I went in every day and sat in a chair and worked from 9 to 5 and then left. You know what I mean? Um, I love the free reign. There's so many good people there at GCU. Jamie Boggs, our vice president of athletics. It was her that had the idea to bring me on full time before I even graduated. And Josh Hauser, my he oversees the communications staff, and I fall under that department too. He gave me a lot of opportunities, allowed me to do the Suns internship at the same time working for GCU. He's been really good to me, and just a lot of good people there in general. But yeah, the ability to do something different every day, to maybe come in late but stay late, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those environments where, as long as you're getting your stuff done, and as long as you're being productive, and as long as you're being a part of the department and an active member, as an employee and as a servant leader for GCU, then you're good. You're set here. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I guess that kind of segues into kind of what, was on the docket a little bit today, like from us talking before, pressing record. The topic of job consideration and finding the best fit for yourself. And we've both have had internships. You mentioned the one that you worked for the Suns. I've had an internship within the Northwoods League. It's a summer collegiate baseball, league. And from those experiences, I mean, just from your experience, you were able to figure out what you didn't like within the sports industry. Again, no slight
Mm-hmm.
to the Suns, working for the Suns, the people that work for them, have a great time. Cool. You like your job. Sometimes it's just not right for everyone.
Right. And yeah, a big part of those internships is just finding what you like and what you don't like, and whether it's for you and whether it's not. And I was so a little more personal piece. I was a diehard Suns fan. I still am. I was since I was 8 years old when I went to my first game. I begged my parents to get league pass every year so I could watch the Suns from home in Alaska. And I thought that was my dream job. Once I got down to college, I said, I want to do something with the Suns. And then once I realized I wanted to be a creative, it was I want to be a creative with the Suns. And then I was geeked when I got that gig, that internship, and it was awesome. But you figure out what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured more college athletics is more my speed, and it's more more for me for a career in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's super important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, if it is everywhere, if an internship is kind of built into the curriculum everywhere as a collegiate student. But even not as a collegiate student. I mean, we've talked about this a couple times on the podcast. Well, actually, probably more than a couple times on this podcast about whether collegiate, education is needed or not needed. But that's not the topic. Doing an internship or doing some sort of, whether it's a job shadow or, doing some sort of digging before deciding where you want to go. We'll keep it within the creative, sports creative industry.
Mm-hmm.
Doing, some sort of those, acts before solidifying, okay, I want to get a job in collegiate athletics doing X, or I want to get a job in pro sports doing Y. Before figuring that out, doing the legwork, I think, is super important. I mean, it helped you, like you just spoke on. For me personally, doing my internship within the Northwoods League, I mean, we worked 3 months, like your collegiate summer, basically. We worked 3 months. 3 months. I think we had a couple weeks off at the end of August before school. So we worked, 3.5 months. Yeah, 3.5 months. And that allowed me to kind of realize, working within baseball is something that's not, not a lot of people are going to want to work in baseball. One, because it's baseball. And if you don't, baseball kind of sucks. If you're going to a baseball game just to watch a baseball game, it can get boring very fast. That's just
Sure.
the nature of the sport. If you don't love baseball, like I love baseball, so working in baseball, that's what I do now still. So it's like
Same.
working in baseball, it's super easy for me. I can sit, shoot photos, and watch a baseball game if it's 0-0 or if it's 10-11.
Mm-hmm.
But that allowed me to kind of realize I like working in baseball. Like, I like the sport. I never realized I would decide to work in it, but I took that kind of route to take an internship within something that I liked outside of school, and see if my career and my design career and getting into sports is something that I wanted to do. And that allowed me to kind of structure everything after that. Like, I took that, I think, the summer of my sophomore year in college. So it, I almost said high school there. That's funny. I took that the summer of my sophomore year in college, and that kind of propelled me to make changes in everything that I wanted to do career-wise, because I figured out how much I enjoyed it, and I knew I had a lot of time left in my collegiate, academic career to be able to take another internship if needed, and other things like that. Outside of collegiate academics, taking an internship, a lot of places require you to have academic credit. I think that's the right wording for it. A lot of
Right.
places where you take an internship sometimes require you to have academic credit, but you won't find out if they'll let you in if you don't apply. Sometimes it comes down to that.
Hmm.
Or just straight up asking people if you live in the same town as. I mean, shit. Let's use your example. You live in Phoenix. If you're a freshman at GCU, messaging a creative director or messaging a designer at the Phoenix Suns just to see if you could come job shadow or see if, like,
Right.
hey, maybe I can get my foot in the door to develop a connection to maybe get a taste of what they do. Maybe I'll like it. Those type of
Hmm.
things. Like, I'm a strong believer. I'm kind of rambling here. You can cut me off whenever you kind of want to, but
Oh,
I'm
go
I'm
ahead.
rambling here about finding a right fit for you when it comes to a job, because personally, having a job that you enjoy and having a job that you want to do every single day, not just because of the paycheck, because you like it. Yes, getting paid is a plus. Everyone wants to get paid. You're not going to work if you're not getting paid.
Right.
But going, somewhere, working somewhere that you don't dread waking up and having to go there, like that's the
Ab-
ultimate goal, especially in my life. Like, if it comes down to it, like, quality of life outside of personal life, like, I mean, you spend so much time at your job. You spend
Sure.
an astronomical amount of time at your job for it not to be.
Especially in sports.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in sports, for it
Hmm.
not to be something that you don't like, for it not to be something that that you hate. You have to
Absolutely.
love, or you have to at least like. You have to smile at least when you
Yeah.
go into your job every day, and you have to be wanting to go there. I don't.
Sure.
What's your opinion on that?
I mean, I have my two parents primarily to thank for kind of instilling that mentality in me. They both, not to get into too much detail, they
For
both
sure.
make good money, but they both work a lot and they don't like necessarily love the field that they're in. So all my life I'm growing up, and they're saying you need to find something that you love and not something that is going to make the most money. The money will come. It is not objective number one. Objective number one is finding something that you love so that you're not absolutely miserable for 8+ hours a day when you're
Mm-hmm.
going in, because it will start to affect other parts of your life that you do enjoy. Come home, family, and even things that you thought you used to enjoy, you wouldn't enjoy anymore because your work life is just making everything else so much more miserable. But yeah, so I mean, it was rather simple for me. I was at Square, when I'm in high school trying to figure out what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I settled on GCU, and it was a simple equation. I like sports. Um, I like the Suns. I like basketball. I like baseball. I like football. And so, carve out an angle, carve out a skill that you have in your back pocket that makes you employable, and start looking for opportunities in sports, because it is a competitive field, and and a lot of people want to get in, especially like at GCU in our sports business club. There's a huge sports management program. I'm actually a sports management major. Never taken a design class in my life. So yeah, that's what I graduated with. It was a sports management degree, but on track, we had I started as a student manager because I had a coach that visited down at GCU for a summer and put in a good word for me, because I was never the most talented kid on my team, but I was, on the bench. I was always a good time on the bench, and a good, a
Hell
good
yeah.
good 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 locker room guy. So, I was always at, especially my senior year when we won state and we were really good. I was a kid on the end of the bench that was chirping that probably shouldn't have been chirping, um, but yeah, like, just made those connections in high school, and eventually it paid off for me because I was put in a good word to become a student manager my freshman year, and then in my first year being a student manager, and I love that team. I love all the opportunities I was given there, but that's not going to be a full-time job, and it's not going to serve you forever. So, like I said, back to square. I mean, not necessarily back to square one, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm in sports. That's check number one.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an unpaid sports manager position with the basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's I started first thing I ever did on like Photoshop or anything Adobe was the jersey swap. So I doing and that obviously helps a lot in recruiting materials. So
I hate jersey swaps.
that was my first skill. Still serve a big purpose for our recruiting season is coming. So everyone, we're all well aware of recruiting season coming up around here. So, but yeah, jersey swaps were like the first skill that I developed, which I've come to find out is a good skill to have because it's not one a lot of people have. And kind of picked up the actual graphic design stuff on the fly. So yeah, that's just them. Long story short, long answer short, I guess, is my parents and the people around me instilling that in me, like find what you love and not necessarily what makes the most money. And so that equation was sports, and then find something I'm good at. So I was fortunate enough to do that so early in my career.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my short opinion on that is it's so vital because it's so important for yourself and your own mental state, and it'll start to affect your physical life as well. So of the utmost importance to find something you love over something that makes the most money, and to find out how to get into that industry and how to assert yourself in that field early. Mm-hmm. before it gets, obviously it's never too late to become a professional or assert yourself at something, but it's better to do it early than to do it later in life.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I'll kind of, I mean, that's basically, it is what it is. We kind of talked about both our experiences when it comes to this, but like me personally, it's like, find don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to put your nose down and you have to do something that you don't like. Trust me. I worked at Planet Fitness for like 4 months. I was waking up at 4 a.m. to go work at Planet freaking Fitness because
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you said you were going to say you're going to wash dishes?
I washed dishes at a golf course restaurant my senior year, before my freshman year of college. So I was washing dishes at that golf course restaurant in Wasilla when I got the text that like, hey, we can put in a good word for you if you want to be a manager next year. So anyway, go ahead. I apologize.
No. That's good. Like sometimes you got to put your nose down and do shit that you don't like, and to get to to kind of bridge that gap between doing something that you want to do, to get to doing something that you want to do, or getting on the path to doing something that you want to do. Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but being able to solidify, I don't want to call it your end game, but I guess if you're kind of a freshman in college or whatever your situation is, or if you're not even in sports industry yet and you want to get into sports industry, realizing the stepping stones. So then you kind of have a path. You kind of, okay, let's get an internship. Let's do a job shadow. Let's do, X, Y, or Z. Let's talk to people within the industry. Getting some sort of path is the right way to go. And yes, sometimes you have to eat some time and do some shitty jobs and, make money, because if you aren't making money, you're going to be, not in a good position, to be able to support yourself or support whoever you have to support. Or whatever the situation is, so many people's situations are different, but yeah, realizing a path of where you want to go and having consideration, justifiable consideration towards your job and towards your career path to make it something that you're going to enjoy and something that you're going to love. So like you said, you said it perfectly. Bryce, you said it perfectly, that if you're having a bad time at your job, you're spending 8 hours at least at your job every single day. And that those feelings of, whether it's remorse towards yourself or not remorse, resentment towards yourself or hatred towards your current situation, that spills over into your personal life. And it just doesn't, it doesn't make situations a great thing to be a part of. It just makes it worse. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the main thing that we had to talk about today is, job consideration and making sure it's the best fit for yourself. Bryce, right. I appreciate you coming on today to the podcast. We had an awesome, we talked shop for about half of it, and it was awesome getting to know you and getting to know what the whole kind of situation is all about over at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, sir. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
We should need to snip that, and I just need to be able to play it whenever I'm asked about it or approached about it.
You just have like an audio clip on your phone or something.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I hope people take away, from the second half of the podcast. I hope people take away a lot of that, because it is so important. It's something that, I mean, we've said it over and over, that it's both, super important to both of us, and it helps us kind of move along in our careers and enjoy our careers. So yeah, again, Bryce, I'll reach out to you. Thank you to you for taking the time out of your day to come on and kind of chat a little bit. For the viewers, go down below. Bryce's links will be down below. You don't have your portfolio in your Twitter bio, so I'm going to have to ask you for that. But your Twitter, I know for a fact, both of those will be down there. Go connect with Bryce. I don't want to, kind of sign you up for anything, but ask Bryce questions. Maybe he'll answer.
Absolutely. Yep.
There you go, Bryce.
I'd be happy to.
If you have any questions, reach out to Bryce. He'll be happy to answer, and also with myself. We've both kind of been through the ringer when it comes to getting an internship and figuring out what we both want to do and everything. So when it comes to that, I feel like we're both pretty decently versed in this whole experience and everything. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to both of us. But anyways, thank you for coming out to episode 35 today of season 3 on the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. And yeah, so I hope you have a good week, month, whatever, and make sure you tell someone that you love them. All right, we will take it easy. See you next week.